Uh-oh, guys. Uh-oh, guys. Oh, let's go. Let's go, baby. Yeah, we barely ever hooked, guys. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aaron and thank you all so much for tuning into the channel. Today we have another winter fishing challenge. If you guys saw my last video, I went out to a lake and it was cold, muddy water, one of the toughest conditions to fish. Well, I went back to that lake today and when I pulled up, it was literally the exact same conditions, cold, muddy water. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not doing this again. We're gonna change it up. So once I saw that, I decided to head to another lake about 30 minutes away, pulled up to this lake, and as you guys can see, cold, muddy water. And I thought to myself, what should I do? Should I go home? Should I give up? But then I decided no. I'm gonna get out there, I'm gonna do some winter fishing. Again, we have cold, muddy water conditions, but I'm gonna go out here and give you guys as many tips as possible. I've never been on this lake, so I'm gonna do a nice little breakdown on it and show you guys exactly my thought process when fishing new water in the winter. Let's get to it, guys. All right, so we are approaching our first spot here. So what I did before I got here is I went on Google Maps and I took a look at the lake to see what area I wanted to fish. I'll show you guys an example of that right now. So when I pulled up the lake, I found this really long creek arm that was pretty close to the boat ramp. It was only about half a mile away. And there's a couple of spots that this has that I really like. Number one, a long tapering point over there. As we get back into the creek, we have some channel swing areas as well too. So I already have a couple ideas of what I want to fish. Now, of course, with it being so muddy right now, I'm probably gonna stick shallow unless I see fish deep. If you guys saw my last video, there was actually fish that were sitting in 10 or 15 feet, even though the water was this dirty. So it is possible for them to get lower. But what I'm hoping with this warmer weather is that they're gonna be pulling up and feeding a little bit more. Now my goal today is only to catch one fish. So really straightforward goal. I just want one on the board. We got skunked last time in similar conditions. So one fish today will make me a happy man. The first bait I'm gonna start off with is this 6 cents flat-sided crankbait. Again, muddy water. This blackened chartreuse is a very good color. That flat-sided crankbait has a really tight wobble to it. And all I wanna do with this guy is work it nice and slow. I can cast it around these docks, but really I wanna use this on this riprap when we come up on it. And when you're reeling it, you wanna reel it just fast enough to where you feel it wobble, but nothing else right now. Obviously, as you get a little bit further along, the water gets warmer, you can reel it faster, but right now I just want a nice, tight action on it. Reeling it nice and slow. If I hit something, I'm giving it a pause. Gear ratio is a 6:2 to 1, so something a little bit slower. I have a hard time moving bait slower, so for me, I have to go down to a slower gear ratio. Some people can take a 7:2 to 1 or even faster, work it slower, but for me, I'm impatient, so having the slower reel really helps me out. Water depth, I want to focus on probably 5 to 10 feet. Again, last time we actually found them a little bit deeper than I expected them to be. So I'm not gonna rule out something 10 feet deep. You wouldn't think they would be there, but just whatever they're comfortable with. When you approach a point like this, I've mentioned this a couple times in different videos, but I like to sit off of the point and cast over top of it. I don't like to sit up on the point and cast out, or out and cast in. And I'm starting off with something a little bit bigger. I told myself today I'm gonna give about an hour with fishing the bigger power fishing baits. And if that doesn't work, I'm gonna switch over to something a little bit smaller crankbait, smaller jig. Again, the goal today is just to land one fish. So if I have to switch down to something a little bit smaller, I'm not gonna be mad. As long as we get something on the board today. Like I said in the intro, I was really deliberating just packing up and leaving, but I'm glad I didn't. Hopefully it pays off, but if not, like I said, it's a mindset, guys. When you go out, you need to improve each day you go out. So even if you aren't catching, you can practice on different things. Different techniques you're not comfortable with, casting. There's a lot of different things that we can improve on as anglers. So even if you go out and don't catch anything, use that as an opportunity. Don't look at it like it's a bad thing. And with these crankbaits, the number one thing is bottom contact. You want that down there bouncing off as many things as possible, because a lot of times that reaction from the reflection is where you're gonna get your bite. As we go through this process, I'm constantly scanning on my fish finder just to see if I can find fish in a different depth. A lot of times it's better to sit off the bank a little bit more at a 45-degree angle, and that way you can keep an eye on that fish finder a little bit deeper than you're casting. And as a kayak fisherman, this creek is exactly what you're looking for, guys. We have two nice main lake points here. It goes all the way back. I have shallow riprap back there. This creek is its own lake, basically. So if I say I have 4 hours to fish, I'm gonna sit in this one creek the entire time. I'm a lot more likely to find fish than if I'm trying to run to this creek, that creek, and the other creek. So my advice to you all be, if you can find a nice big creek arm, go spend most of your time in that one creek arm, especially if you're seeing fish on the fish finder. If you're not seeing it, you're not feeling it, you can move, but I'm gonna spend my entire time in this one creek to see what I can find. I'm gonna scoot over here and grab this point real quick. Let's see if anybody's home. I like that there's a lot of chunk rock over here, some wood mixed in. Got 15 feet right near the bank there. Water's 48 degrees right now. Nice drop off on that point. As you get closer to the spawn, a lot of times your fish are gonna sit on your main lake points, then they're gonna head to the secondary points, then the backs of the coves to spawn. So you always wanna start out here in the main lake this time of the year, then we'll work our way back to secondary points, so on and so forth. If we happen to see bait somewhere, we'll stop a little bit more and fish that area a little bit harder. Pick up that chatterbait here in a second, switch it up a little bit. I'm sitting here in 7 foot right now, but I think I need to back off just a little bit more, cast it more of a 45-degree angle so I can cover really shallow. I can cover a little bit deeper as well too. Pull up the chatterbait for a few casts here. Same concept with the chatterbait, guys. Nice and slow. I'm gonna work it just fast enough to feel that blade. Really nothing more than that. Throw it out there, let it sink all the way to bottom. I know once that line becomes fully slack, it's on bottom. Nice and slow. If I feel something, maybe rip it over a little bit, giving it pause every now and then. I really like this lake for winter fishing because it's got a lot of rock. If you can find something like a wiggle wart, money badger, that sort of thing, a lure like that on this lake is gonna work very, very well. Let's check that drag. Last thing you wanna do is hook onto a winter fatty and you're not prepared. Look what we got here, guys. Got some fish suspended right off into this dock. Not gonna target them though, because targeting suspended fish without live scope is very, very difficult, but suspending right off the dock there. And what they'll do is they'll suspend out in the channel, and when they're ready to come feed, they'll pull up to the dock to feed. And we're sitting 30, 40 feet off the bank, and we're sitting in 31 feet of water. Perfect type of bank in winter you want to fish. Nice channel swing, chunk rock on it. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna switch this jerkbait out since the water is so terribly colored. I don't really think a jerkbait's gonna do too well today. So I'm gonna switch out for something that's gonna do a little bit better in this color water. It's gonna be this 6 cents crankbait. Dives about 5 to 9 feet. Another tip you guys can do is when you guys have crankbaits like this, take a marker, mark in the bottom how deep they dive so you guys will know when you go to pick them up. So this bait's gonna be a little bit more finesse than that flat-sided crankbait we have. It's a little bit smaller profile, also some different colors. And then if this doesn't work, then I'm gonna switch over to even smaller crankbait, maybe some sort of red color. So in my mind, I already have a game plan of if this, then this. And then that way I can kind of move through the lures if I'm not getting bit. Let's check that drag, guys. So the last thing we wanna do is hook a giant and lose it, or even hook a small one and lose it. Either way, my feelings would be hurt today. So I'm setting about 15 feet, cast it up there pretty shallow, work it back at a 45-degree angle so I can cover a lot of different depths of water. Again, nice and slow. It's a little bit faster gear ratio reel, so really got to slow myself down here. Coming through sticks down there and coming through rocks down there. Exactly what you want to feel. If this water was clear, I'd be coming down through here with a jerkbait. But since it's dirty, I need something to cause some deflection, make a little ruckus in the water. Pretty deep there, honestly. It's a steep channel swing. Pull out my little flipping bait here. We're starting to see some life here. So you got these on the side scan, you got these on the down scan here. So a couple of fish hanging out, which doesn't surprise me because as a staging area, this is absolutely perfect. The steep bank on the way back. If I was a fish, I'd want to sit here too. So seeing fish on there, that tells me I need to spend a little bit more time in this area in particular to try to find some active fish. That flipping bait Let it set for about 5 seconds. Semi-slack line. So watch your line in the winter. Drag it about 3 to 5 feet. Reel up your slack. Let it sit on a semi-slack line. Drag it about 3 to 5 feet. Reel up your slack. "14 feet deep, and we're about 25 feet off the bank. It's an extremely steep drop off. Dirty water, we're going with something a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier, black and blue. Clean water, I'd probably be throwing a finesse jig up there, but I'm very happy with this lake so far. Glad I came out here. As I mentioned, I actually went to the other lake first. It was even dirtier than this one. Pulled up and debated whether to fish it or not, but I'm so glad I did because this lake is awesome. A lot of chunk rock out here on this point. If you look at the bank, you can basically imagine that just continuing to the water. And that's exactly what we got here. I'm seeing some fish down here in 13 feet, 12 feet. So maybe putting on something even a little bit deeper than 5 to 7 feet would be a good call. It's crazy that you would just think super dirty water, they're gonna be pushed up shallow. But the last couple times I've been out, even with the dirty water, I've still seen fish in 10 to 15 feet. It just blows my mind. If you look at the graph, we have a bunch of timber down here at about 5 to 10 feet. If the water was more clear, I would take a shallow diving jerkbait and run it right over the top of that water. Something that dives about 3 feet and try to pull any of them up that are sitting in that brush. But the good thing is too, I have these crankbaits, which can kind of do the same thing, just tickle the tops of the trees, see if anyone wants to come out and play. That's why it's important that when you hit something, you want to make sure you pause to give that fish time to come up and grab it. Steep drop off here. Look at our side scan and see if we can see any fish sitting right on the drop off. I don't know what kind of bait fish there are in this lake, but really on the graph when we're looking for fish, we're looking for big balls of bait fish. Sometimes you'll see bass, but it's kind of hard with the active bass because a lot of times they're sitting in brush piles and they're sitting in rocks, so it's hard to pick them out. We're gonna downsize even more to little tiny here. All right, so we're getting even more finesse. See if it makes a difference here. Got this beautiful riprap here. Secondary point. Again, reeling it just fast enough to feel it wiggle. Wiggle and a wobble. Not much faster than that. Pause it every 3 to 5 turns of the handle. Oh, those trees will get you. That's for sure. A good little chatterbaiting spot back here. Oh, there we go. Now we're talking. Got some bait on the graph. A ball of white perch or white bass or something. That's exactly what I want to see on the graph. I'm waiting for. And I just love the way this lake is set up. Reminds me of like a Lake of the Ozarks or something similar to that. Just got this beautiful chunk rock everywhere, and then you got these laydowns coming off as well. Just my kind of fishing. You can just tell once it becomes March, April, those fish start to pull up. Man, it's just an awesome lake. It really is awesome. This is just so fishy back here. You got a whole chunk rock wall that just runs all the way back. Even the creek looks like it's chunk rock back there. It's crazy. Paralleling with this flat-sided crankbait. Just keep rotating back and forth between different things. Whatever I get a bite on, that's gonna be the lure that we stick with for a little bit. Did you get stuck on something? Be gentle with it. Try to let it float back up. Gently try to snap it free. If you can't, you can always go get it, but the less times you have to go retrieve your lure, the better. Really do not want to lose this lure. Oh, there we go. Oh. Oh. Uh-oh, guys. Uh-oh, guys. Uh-oh, guys. Uh-oh, guys. Oh, let's go. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Yes, sir. Come here, girl. Come here, girl. And it's way more, she's way more feisty than I thought she would be. Come here, girl. Oh man, let's go. Stay pinned, baby. Stay pinned, baby. Let's go. Look at that, guys. Not hooked great. Not hooked great. Come on. Man, she is strong. I don't think they'd be this strong right now. Play her nice and slow. She's hooked a little funky. Just gotta keep that bend in that rod. Eventually, she'll come over. Oh, 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 oh. We barely ever hooked, guys. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, let's go. Ouch. Ouch, I'm cramping up. Oh, let's go, guys. One hook in her. Oh, nothing crazy, but let's go. Since she's bleeding, I'm gonna keep her in the water here. Oh my gosh. Let's go. Oh, I pulled a butt muscle. Oh, that's pathetic. Ouch. Oh, man. Whew. All right, guys. We hooked up with a fish. And if you look at the area, we got a secondary point here. Nice rock, and this chunk rock is basically everywhere. And then we got some trees in the water. Like I was telling you guys before, when you got these trees that come off the bank, especially when it's sparse and not super dense, I like to take that flat-sided crankbait and just run it right over the tops of the trees. And that is exactly where that fish was sitting, right over top of a tree. We're lucky we got her in. Oh, she's bleeding pretty bad, so I'm gonna let her sit in the water for a little bit. When it comes to fish, guys, water is the only thing that is gonna clot that fish's blood. So as long as I keep her in the water until she stops bleeding, we're good to go. For a weight estimate, I would say she's 2 1/4, maybe 2 1/2 if I'm lucky. Honestly, cannot believe how much fight that fish had in her. Guys, let's get a quick weight on her. Let's see. 265, okay. All right, that is sweet. 265, nice healthy winter bass. Get a length on her and let her go. Let's see what we got. 17, little 17-inch, 2 1/2 pound bass. Still bleeding a little bit, so we're gonna get a release on her. The water is cold. There she goes. Thank you, Lord. Let's go, guys. Let's go. First fish of the year. Nice little 2 1/2 pounder on the flat-sided crankbait. And just like I told you guys before, whenever you get these laydowns coming off the bank, especially if you're sitting in 5, 6, 7, 8 feet of water, that flat-sided crankbait, running it right over tops of the trees, and as soon as you hit something, giving it a pause, and I really don't remember whether she bit on the pause or whether I was still reeling it, but nevertheless, that's the exact bait I started off with today, and that's the one that got the bite. So it gives me some good confidence there. All right, feeling good, feeling good. Let's see if we can do that again. Now I don't remember what catching a fish feels like. Cannot believe how much energy she had for how cold it is. A lot of times when it's cold like that, they just roll over, but man, she was feisty. Let's see if anybody else is sitting on this bank. So my goal is just to run it right over the ends of those treetops, working it nice and slow through there. I should also mention too, I have 10-pound test on this rod. The reason that's important is with this crankbait, I want it to get down pretty deep. I'm fishing wood, so I don't want to go as light as 8 or 6-pound test, but 10-pound test is a pretty good deep cranking or even a crankbait like this setup, because a lot of times you want to get that crankbait down. If I had 17-pound test, 15, this thing would only get to about 3 feet, but since I have 10-pound test, it dives to about 6 feet. A risky cast there. Got another little school of fish down there. Decently sized, could be bass. Got a lot more activity down through here than we did in the middle of the channel or at the beginning of the channel. So that tells me that these bass have moved up a decent ways back. Probably chasing this bait back here. Males and females moving back here to spawn. Gives me a pretty good idea that if I were to come back here again in the winter, say in a couple weeks, I probably want to start at the back and work my way towards the front, because there's a lot more fish on the graph back here. Just looking for those logs coming off the bank, casting it right over the tips of them. I don't want to cast it up right where the log is going into the water, because it's going to have a hard time coming over. I basically want this crankbait to be able to meet that wood about 6 feet down in the water when this thing is diving at its deepest. Like right there, I cast it a little bit too close to the top. I might have a hard time getting it over there and it might get stuck, which is exactly what it did. So that's why when I'm doing it, I'm trying to have that crankbait meet the wood at the maximum depth. Instead of meeting it at 3 feet where it's a lot more likely to get stuck, I want it to meet it at 6 feet where it can come over a lot easier. All right, folks, thank you so much who watch these videos to the end. I so greatly appreciate it. Everything I do on this channel is for you guys. I want to entertain you guys, but I also want to teach you guys as much as possible. So when you all get the time to hit the water, you guys can be as efficient as possible. I had a great time on the water today. We completed our one fish challenge and we did it fishing the most difficult conditions possible. Cold, muddy water. Leave a comment down below which tips you guys found the most helpful, and stay tuned because there's much more content to come. See you guys on the next one.